Okay, so Leona Skye is an Ojibwe woman from Pick River, Ontario, and is a member of the Turtle Clan. Leona's spirit name is She Who Walks with Clouds. Leona is a mother to 4, a grandmother to 3, caregiver to her sister, and a recently newlywed. Well, 1 year, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
1 year, longest honeymoon in the history of honeymoons.
Leona is an outspoken and passionate advocate for victims of human trafficking and child exploitation, and is a sought-after guest lecturer at numerous universities. And indeed, that's how I met Leona. She spoke at conferences that I helped organize. So Leona's story of sexual exploitation began, as she states, at 3 hours old through words, then physically at the age of 4. She remained encased in the sex industry for all of her childhood and teen years. By age 11, she was homeless, bought and sold, remaining enslaved in prostitution until the age of 17, then continued to be exploited within the sex industry through exotic dancing videos and answering phones for local escort agencies. Once Leona found freedom from her exploiters, her healing then became her art. So Leona is a talented artist, and her works are displayed locally, nationally, and internationally. Most recently, Leona won the Niagara Falls Alistair Young and Arts and Cultural Endowment Fund, and she is also honored with a place on the Niagara Falls Arts and Culture Wall of Fame. So welcome, Leona, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning.
No, hey, I'd do anything for you, girl.
So do you 3 want to just quickly introduce yourselves? Just tell Leona, I don't know, a little bit about yourself, where you're located right now. Daniela, do you want to start? You're at the top of my screen.
Sure. I'm Daniela. I live in North Bay. I'm in my 3rd year of gender equality and social justice, and doing a double major in criminology as well. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Kaylin, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name's Taylin. I'm in my 3rd year of psych and IPSing, and I'm in North Bay right now, but I'm from Elliott Lake.
Oh, nice. Nice place, that Elliott Lake.
I'm Allie, and I live in North Bay, and I grew up in North Bay, and I'm in my 4th year of the Gender Equality and Social Justice program, and yeah.
Well, nice to meet you. Everyone, this is my husband coming in behind me. Social distancing, this isolation, we do have to share office space. So, and he's heard all of this before, I promise you that. Yeah.
Yeah, the joys of being locked in our houses.
Oh, I know. Right?
It's a good thing you're in your 1st year of marriage, not your 20th.
Right? He's locked in another room, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right, so did you want to speak for a little bit, and then we can open it up to questions? Does that work for you?
We can do that. Well, I am a survivor of human trafficking. And my journey was weird. It was really weird. I was trafficked out of the home. My father would drug me, so on and so forth. I ran away from the home, became ward of Family and Children's Services. And because I had a life skill, they left me out on the street corner. They let me run away and let me stand on the street corner. I became addicted to heroin, intravenous drug use, and that kind of stuff. I became drug-free the minute I found a baby in my belly. And I've been drug-free ever since. I don't drink. I keep it real as much as I possibly can. And I feel that it's really, really important for people like myself, and I'm going to say people because I'm not going to state a gender, because this issue is not gender-based. It's not religious, it's not color, it's not creed, it's not location, it can happen anywhere at any time. And I think that it's really, really important for me and others like myself to get out there and speak our truths and understand our truths and help others. It's been hard. It's been really hard um, because as a long-term survivor, I didn't start opening my mouth and starting to speak about what happened to me. I remember the first time I spoke about it, they flew me up to Thunder Bay, and I walked into this room, and it was surrounded. I was in the room with 50 other survivors of human trafficking from across Canada. And all of a sudden, we had to get up and introduce ourselves and share a little bit about our exploitation, our experiences, and stuff like this. It was devastating. There was transgender, there was men, there was girls as young as 15, and women as old as 75 in this room. And when they came to me, I tend to present a little differently than others. I wouldn't like to say I don't look the part, but I clean up real nice, you know? And when I walked into the room and I'm sitting there, they thought I was one of the cops. And as a survivor of human trafficking, I knew exactly what they meant. Anybody who's book smart or has never experienced human trafficking, a survivor looks at them as a cop. So there's 49 survivors in the room looking at me like I'm one of the cops, right? That are sitting there with their computers and tapping away and, you know, recording everything. And then I started to speak. And I didn't realize what opening my mouth was going to mean to me. And right then, right at that point, I found a voice. And I saw everyone around me doing outreach programs, working in drug rehabilitation centers, so on and so forth, and making a difference, or at least trying to make a difference. And so I didn't shut up. I kept speaking. My life has been threatened. A large newspaper article printed my whole journey through the Kitchener-Waterloo Record or the Hamilton Spectator. You can look that up. That article went across Canada. And so messages started with me at 8 a.m. to noon. And then come 4 o'clock, the second round came in. And then by 3 o'clock in the morning, it had hit places within the UK. And then more messages came in. And at that point in time, I'm sharing a journey of 11,734 rapes I had experienced to the world's largest audience I had ever shared it with. And the response I got was hundreds of dick pics and death threats. That was the response I got. I've been working in the Niagara region. I worked for the Niagara chapter of Native Women, which is a branch of Onwa. And they brought me in as a consultant before the big thing started around here about the anti-human trafficking. And I've been honored to sign the region's protocol agreement, the only survivor that was in the room. The chief of the police, the fire department, hospitals, so on and so forth. But I was the only survivor to sign this. I put out a big report regarding the anti-human trafficking and the issue within the Niagara region. And I did that within a 5-month span. And that documentation that I put out really helped and is still helping the community. But my voice is still helping in the community also, because they're still calling me in to reiterate on some of the issues and the topics that I touched upon within my report. As time has went on, and after basing my information upon this report, I started to realize that there's still stuff missing. And the really important stuff that's missing is for survivors like myself. I have been out and not involved within the human trafficking for a very long time. My own sexual exploitation, obviously not as long, but I've been no longer on the streets now for about 35 years. That's the streets and strip clubs. So in this time, so you think 35 years, but that doesn't stop my nightmares. When I have a nightmare, a defense mechanism that I had as a child was to pee the bed. And that would stop the full-grown men from crawling into the bed beside me if I was soaking wet. And still now, when I have a nightmare, that's my big fear, because I have still peed the bed. I still break. I still get triggers when people are yelling around me. A child starts to scream and cry and I cower. And I'll flinch when people move too quickly. And this is all learned. This is all learned. A lot of this stuff where sexual exploitation and stuff was always second nature to me. I was taught sexual experiences before someone taught me the alphabet song, before I was taught to tie my shoes, before I even walked into a classroom. I was, as a survivor, I need help. I need counseling. I need someone to speak with. But what the problem is they don't offer that type of stuff to anyone past a certain time frame. You know, what is it, 2 years, 3 years? That's all they're offering. They're not offering it for us long-term survivors who have lost our, well, I can't say I have, but I'm talking in general, lost our children, are suicidal, are addicted to drugs, or couldn't get off the drugs because of the prostitution as a way of numbing, the violence, the prison system. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where we came from. And look at the Centoya Brown case. 16-year-old girl protects herself and shoots the guy, and she's sentenced to 30 years in prison. That was a lot of work from a survivor-led thing where we all signed, we all wrote letters to the governor and asking them for clemency. I sent videos of my talks. Other survivors sent videos of their talks. We did everything in our power to get Centoya the help that she needed, not to be recognized as a murderer, but as a self-defense, as a victim, that she did the only thing she knew how to do. I also believe that organizations are really, really lacking because you require survivor peer-led, peer support programming, where if a survivor of human trafficking comes in, she's scared. She doesn't want to talk to the cops. She needs somebody to speak to that she can trust. And she can't trust the cops. She can't trust the social services providers. She can't trust special victims units. What she needs is a survivor. We speak a different language. We have no mandates. We have no filters, no censors, right? And we sit there and we can be sisters or brothers or more relatable to these survivors in those very strong, intense moments, the most valuable moments on whether they're going to be able to escape safely or if they're going to regress and just go home. Survivor-led, survivor-driven peer support programs are the strongest and the most influential programs. North York, just outside of Toronto, has actually implemented a survivor led survivor peer support program where they take a survivor like myself for ride-alongs in the police cars for these special reasons. And it actually is really extremely successful. They're getting the girls to talk. They're getting charges laid. And it's just been really, really amazing work that they're doing and bringing forth, but not all communities are buying into it. All communities need to buy into this. It's really, really important. Anybody have any questions for me? No?
Well, I do.
Okay.
When you're saying not all communities are buying into this program, are you talking about like municipalities or like?
Oh yeah, well, like I know I implemented this program, and I actually applied for government funding within the Niagara region to implement a program just like this. And so a bunch of other community organized programs tweaked the wording a little bit, and they're only dealing with people under the age, under the age of 16, and they're hiring victims of sexual exploitation to work with victims of human trafficking. Okay, I can see that there being a similarity, but a victim of sexual exploitation still is not a survivor of human trafficking. They do not know the violence. They don't understand the fear. They don't understand that type of community that is out there, because it is a community. It is a way of life. It's a language, it's a walk, it's a talk, it's a look. And a lot of the programs here will not bring in survivors of human trafficking because we do not have, and we do not possess the paperwork, the degrees, the education, the schooling, the background. You know, a lot of us aren't pretty. A lot of us are rough around the edges, and we too struggle. And to bring in a survivor, I can be triggered by someone I'm trying to help. So now that 2.5-year mandate does not apply to me as a survivor-led peer support. I cannot access that type of counseling or assistance because it's not relevant to me because of the time frame that I've exited from.
Do you think these people who are working in the North York program, do you think they can access supports like as employee benefit or?
You know, I think they just access them through the police services, directly through the police services, because the survivors are working directly through the police.
Okay.
You know, this way, when they're side by side with the police officer, you can't break a law, for one. And you know, the cop will let you do what you got to do as long as there's no laws broken, nobody's being unsafe, nothing like this. So I believe that their counseling would be through the police services and initiated through their funding and through their program, because that's where the direct hire.
Because it makes me think like, you know, if you're going to do survivor support and peer outreach, you need to build supports in for those people as a program, as an organization, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Do you guys have other questions? I know Leona really loves questions.
I love questions.
Anything really, right? Any kind of question, right?
Could you just clarify? You talked about like the 2-year kind of like time frame. Does that mean like 2 years after you only have 2 years to access those services?
A lot of the time, yes.
Why?
Yes. Hmm?
Why do you think that is?
If you read a lot of the mandates and the programs and the issues, they state that the major time that a trafficked victim needs assistance is within the first 2 years. So they offer that up. They no longer have they eliminated the criminal injuries compensation, which criminal injuries compensation for the abuse I endured at the hands of my father was indefinite. That was part of the settlement that I received, that I would receive indefinite counseling. But when they gave that to me, I didn't need it at that point in time. And now that it went further on in years, I've pretty much got to jump through hoops to get the help and the assistance that I need. But no, they've got this very blocked off, closed thing. I think that they work it by person, though. Like say, I think it's the last time you turned a trick. So if you escape and then you go back out and you self-exploit, or you meet somebody who exploits you, or you get high and you're struggling to get past the relapse and you end up out turning tricks, then they'll assist from the first day back for 2 years. So at some point in time, you got to screw up for them to continue to extend it. And I see that look in your face. I see the disappointment in that, because it is an utterly disappointing scenario. That if you don't look broken, they won't help you. Yeah.
Are you talking mostly about human trafficking survivors? Like human trafficking funding?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're a victim of some other violent sexual crime and you're in the sex industry, you're not even going to access that funding, right?
Right.
Like you have to identify as having been trafficked.
You have to, yeah, exactly. That's it. There was a young girl, she was 15 years old, and I received a call from Thunder Bay. I'm here in Niagara Falls, as far away from her as possible. Okay, I received a phone call actually from her father saying, I think she's being trafficked. And they somehow or another, they managed to three-way her through cell phones. The father and her were Skyping, and then somebody else messaged me through their cell phone. And I was talking to this 15-year-old girl, and her face was smashed and distorted. Her eyes were blackened, everything like this. I said to her, I said, are you okay? She goes, help me now, please. I'm scared, help me. I contacted the Thunder Bay Police Department. I contacted Victim Services. I called an ambulance for her broken ribs, but no one would take her out of that place because she would not say, I am being trafficked. I contacted local organizations throughout Thunder Bay. I contacted my survivor community from across Canada. I contacted them, And because this child would not say that she was being trafficked by this man, nobody came to her rescue. So the very next morning, and I knew what dad was like. Dad got a bad attitude, indigenous man from Six Nations with a criminal record. He spent most of his life in prison and everything. We had the address to where she was. We knew exactly where she was. He didn't have the money. So I e-transferred him $500 of my own personal money. And in less than 12 hours, I received a phone call and a picture came in as the phone was ringing that she was in that car with her father, and that she had openly admitted that he was trafficking her, but she was scared to say those words because she was reaching out for help in front of her father. She didn't want her father to know what was being done to her body. But nobody would reach out and help this child. But one good thing, she got to spend her 16th birthday with her dad, which happened to be the day they arrived back in Six Nations Reservation. They arrived back at Six Nations something like 2 a.m. in the morning, and she had been 16 for 2 hours.
That story just seems so ass backwards. Like,
right?
Because she's so obviously a minor. Like, you'd think in a situation with a minor, like Child Protection Services would be there in an instant.
But a minor with a history of running away. When it wasn't a history of running away, it was she met this boy, well, but he was in his mid-20s on Six Nations.
Oh, okay.
He was boyfriend, and he would take her off of Six Nations, get her in the car, not return her. So the parents assumed in their head that she was running away, that she is a repeat runner. You know.
And then when you did place all those calls, I mean, it's hard to prove racism in some ways, but it must be part of the picture, right? Especially Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay police are not known to be very good, right? Like they're known for brutality.
People at all, no.
Yeah.
No. You know, so like what's taken 100 years to acknowledge where the human trafficking and the violation of women to set up and to save one woman took me 4 hours and $500, and that child was home.
Yeah. You know, your story reminds me of another woman we met at one of our community workshops. Same thing. She had to go and find her kid herself. Like, I mean, the police were working with her, but they'd always get there too late.
Always.
You know? So she had one officer that she had a good relationship with, and he would give her his intel about where her daughter was. But I think she figured it out herself through her daughter's Facebook. And she's the one who went and got her kid out. And we heard many stories like that. Like it's the aunties and the grandmothers or people like you or the fathers going and getting their kids out.
Yeah, like I never ever set eyes on that child before this. And I have not seen who she is after this. I've never asked for a penny back because of the love that I feel and this passion. Sorry, I'm starting to get a little. This passion to make a difference. This child is alive today, and there's no money in this world, no money in this world that will ever repay that feeling alone.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Any more questions?
I have a question. I don't know if you'll be able to answer it because I think it is so like I don't know how to say it, but like, do you think that like the Canadian framework, if it shifted from the Nordic model like to decriminalization, do you think that that would impact human trafficking at all?
No. No, I don't. Well, right now they're trying to actually legalize it, like they've done in Amsterdam and Sweden and stuff like this. And the way I see it is if they legalize prostitution, sex has just become a commodity. So you can be raped, and as long as they stuff a $5 bill in your bra, you've been paid. Decriminalizing it will actually push it underground and we'll never find them. So there's this really, really fine line because it's not going to stop. And as you've noticed, as of late, they're getting younger and younger, and they're videotaping it, you know, and because that's what they're doing. That's where we've ended up. And it's so decriminalizing it, trying to monitor it, this kind of stuff, that does not work. You know, anyone wanting to work within the sex trade industry by choice, you got to find out where, at which point they gave themselves permission to exploit their body like that, because they most likely are a victim of some form of exploitation, or was groomed by Miley Cyrus riding naked on Wrecking Ball. You don't think that that's a big deal, but it really is. A child sees that and they desensitize it. Little statements on SpongeBob SquarePants, you know, this kind of stuff. Or in every movie, the stripper on the pole, oh, that looks so glamorous. You know, it's a desensitization of our boys and our girls and stuff like that. It's, you know, it's really, really hard to understand how we have to go about this. And to actually, I think the best thing is to run the truth and stop pussyfooting around it. You know, they start teaching kids sex ed in grade 3. Well, then you should start teaching healthy relationships. You should have a survivor of some form of sex exploitation to soften it up, but still tell them the truth. Parents need to speak the truth. These children understand a lot better than we give them credit for. They understand that, no, this ain't supposed to happen. They understand it, but they need to know a reason why. So you need to tell them the truth so that when a child runs away from home, we're not trying to figure out where they're going. We're trying to figure out what the fuck they're running from. Does that answer your question, Daniela?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you guys have other questions?
I know you do, Rosemary.
Of course I do. I always do.
Yeah.
I had 2 questions. One was, how do you see the role of police? Like, I know you've said before that there was a police officer who badgered you.
Oh, Tweedledum and Tweedledee.
Yeah.
They busted. Those 2 cops from 52 Division, They were out there every day and they busted my ass. I gotta tell you, I view the police like I do the local motorcycle gang. They're a big boys club and they have their own language. They have their own rules. They have their own communities, just like the bikers. They're both organized or organized programs with the intimidation factor. Every now and then you find a police officer that really, really wants to make a difference. It's ego too. It's the whole ego thing. You get into a position of power and you want the world to know how powerful you are. You know, so I am a really strong supporter of the police. I really am. And if one's being a dick, I have no problem calling him out and saying so, you know, and I have no problem walking right by him and reporting him to his supervisor in front of him. But I am a supporter of the police, but they're only human. They're only human. The police have pimped, police have raped, police have been paid off, you know, because they're human within a means of power. So, but not all police have done that. If one cop gets busted for it, all cops pay the price for it. No, it shouldn't be like that. That one cop that got it, his face should be all over the papers. His name should be put on the sexual offenders list, and he should no longer be a cop. He should be a mall security dude without a gun, you know, like a Paul Blart mall cop or something like that. Yeah. But no, he should be stripped of his power. He should be stripped of his dignity, and it should be made public knowledge. I also believe that family members, like I was born in Toronto. I was raised half the time in Kitchener and the other half in North Bay. So I went to school, I went fishing, I was off the government docks. You know, I spent sun up to sundown down there at the beach and sun tanning on Bird Shit Island. And, you know, like, oh, I'm stealing pop from Temagami Dry so I can return the bottles to the corner store and stuff like this. I did all that. But my family, when that article that I told you that went across Canada came out, they called me a liar. They said, oh, he did not do that. My only response was, I really, really hope that you can prove that I'm a liar before I can get all my court documents. So when I go out to my talks, and I believe I showed them to you at one point too, didn't I?
You showed them to Becky, yeah.
I carry around all police reports. I carry around my father's conviction records to prove to people that I am not lying. Why should I have to prove that I am not lying? And when my family called me a liar, it came to my mind that if a man murders somebody while he's downtown and you hide him under the bed in the spare bedroom, you get charged with accessory to murder and harboring and abetting. I believe that family members or anybody who tries to call someone a liar who has experienced this and tries to protect a child molester or a pimp or whatever the case may be should be charged with guilty after the fact, and their name should be placed upon the sex offenders list and publicly acknowledged as a danger to children. That would that would stop a lot of shit from, you know, incest. It would stop a lot of rapes. It would stop a lot of things in smaller communities that are struggling, like the Indigenous community. They struggle with that a lot because of population being so small and the relations. Oh, you know, but no. If you implement a law like that, and all of a sudden an auntie is being placed on the sex offenders list because she covered up for her brother, believe you me, a lot more women will be saying, oh yeah, no, my brother's a piece of shit, or my son, he's a piece of shit, because they don't want their names attached to that. They do not want to be known as a molester and rapist of children, whether it's directly or after the fact. I believe laws should be implemented based upon that.
How would you do that though? Like, because there are power dynamics. Let's say a mother knows that her husband is abusing their daughter, but
Yeah.
he's also abusing her.
With that threat that she can go to jail and be charged exactly the same and face the same amount of time for not opening her mouth, she's going to seek the help for her abuse. And it's not going to take her 15 years.
Hmm.
It's not going to take her 20 years to ask for help. Asking for help would be
Right.
almost immediate. You know, it might take 1 year, might take 2 years, but eventually,
Right.
you know, she will come forward, and then there's the victim and the witness
Right.
that child needs to stand up in court. And then that child becomes the witness for the abuse that the mother has endured at the hand of the perpetrator. Like I know that in North Bay, and I know this for a fact, in North Bay, there is, and I know them firsthand, and I have absolutely no qualms spitting out their name in public venues if they're sitting in the room, that there is 8 child molesters who prefer children under the age of 10. I know that there's 13 women that protect them. And then their children that are protecting the fathers and protecting the mothers and stuff like this. My family roots are strong there. And each and every one of them is a child molester, is a woman beater, is a rapist. And they all live in your community up there in North Bay. And they look the sweetest, they are the kindest, most gentlest and giving people that you'll ever meet in your life. You would welcome them into your home to babysit your children, to teach you how to play guitar, to fix your vehicles. You'd never see them coming.
What would you recommend that people like us, students, living, I can't speak for you three, but I live a very comfortable, privileged life as a white person. What would you recommend are things that we can do as just like ordinary citizens?
Open your mouth. Look around you. It's okay to have fun. It's okay to enjoy yourself, and it's okay to hook up randomly on Tinder if that's what you want to do. You know, if you want to flash your titties at Mardi Gras, have at her, you know. Have a good time, but protect yourself. Always have a safe escape plan. Always, always let somebody know where you are. Let everyone within your group know, and I post this every year, that if I go missing and I do not come home, if you do not hear from me, I am not doing this on purpose. I am not doing this of my free agency. Look for me, find me. I would not run away from home. I would not leave my children. I would not let anybody, I would not leave without letting anyone know where I am. Make that a motto. Do not. And it's not just for women. It's for little boys too, for little girls, for men, transgender. It's completely, it's ugliness. And like to kind of keep it, the whole sex talk going and the exploitation. The other day, it was posted that the Lincoln County Humane Society is looking to rehome these two puppies, these two female puppies. And these two female puppies are going to need a lot of interaction and a lot of help and a lot of love and gentleness, because both of these puppies had been violently raped by 5 men.
Oh.
The only thing that they're not going to be able to find safe interaction for these dogs. And the only thing that they're going to be able to do is put them to sleep. Unless they can find somebody that can break them of this trauma that these puppies have endured. So see, it's not, nothing is safe. No one is safe. And we need to remind people, you're not safe. If it's a total stranger and she's getting all drunked up and she's acting like a tart, help her. Help her understand what she's doing, or redirect the mind into a different direction. Sit down and have a B-52 with her, whatever the case may be, to take her focus off of what she was just doing to a safe place, to what you're doing. You know, I will not go to I will not go like to even Boston Pizza and get up and walk away from the table without putting a coaster over my drink and marking that coaster so I can tell if it's been moved or not. Because I don't want someone slipping something into my drink. If you walk away from your drink, do not drink it. Drink it before you walk away. You know, and I don't want to instill fear. I want to empower. I want my words to empower you and give you a reason to empower yourself through my example. Just, you know, before the legal age of consent, between the ages of 11 and 16, I was raped 11,734 times. That was against my will. I was a child. I was illegal. Before that, I was raped by over 40 men on more than one occasion before the age of 11. Learn, listen, love. Don't ever stop loving. Don't let this shit break you. And if it's happened to you, use that experience to connect. Because not only does it help somebody else, but trust me, it really helps you too. especially if you haven't spoken about it to anybody. It will really, really help you.
Miigwech.
Honestly, I'm not this much as much of a tough ass as I'm seeming here. You know, I'm a video Rambo with a PhD in street.
Well, I've never heard you speak so tough before as the family members and a criminal solution for that.
Oh,
You surprised me with that one.
Oh yeah, I got a criminal solution, and I it will not just help me; it'll help communities. Right there, it will help households. It would help grandmothers. It will help children. Oh my God, that would just help so many people.
You don't think it would just end up putting more Indigenous people in jails and contributing to the overrepresentation?
Oh no, you got to remember. You got to remember. No, it will put more white people in jail.
I think you have more faith in the system than I do.
No, I think it'll be putting more white people in jail. My auntie gave birth. Her oldest child is her father's. And her mother said nothing about it. Her father raping her.
Right.
My mother has clearly told me about how she didn't get raped because she was the youngest daughter, but the exploitation. No, I do have faith.
Mm.
I do have faith because no matter what, your background or your history or whatever, I will find that one drop of Indigenous blood in you. I will find it if I have to, and fuck you hard with it. Sorry. Because if I'm going to go down with my red skin for it, I'm going to find that one drop and expose that one red patch on your ass. You know, no, this has got to stop. We need to no longer be afraid, us women. You know, we don't have to be afraid of men anymore. We don't have to be afraid of the penis. We don't have to, we fear for our children. We fear for our elders. We fear. No. Stand up proud and say, no, yes, it happened to me, but it ain't never happening again. And find your own damn reason why it ain't gonna happen again. Dig your heels in, find like-minded people, and make sure that shit don't happen again.
Do you guys have any other comments or questions for Leona?
Allie's got a big old shit-eating grin on her face there. Allie just caught something. She just caught something. She got some power tingling through her toes.
You're really inspiring, and I really appreciate all of your input, and I think it's like really refreshing. And I really like how you were talking about the police, and you were saying you like the police and not all police are bad, and I liked that you had that like take on it. And I just think like you're so strong and you are very inspiring, and I think that you seem like a really amazing person, and I'm really happy that I got to listen to you today.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Allie.
It was nice to have it like not sugar coated, because that's the world that we live in now. Everything's sugar coated. So to just hear it, these are the facts, this is what we need to do, like that's the way that we need to move forward, I think.
Right. I have a real issue with sugarcoating anything. You know, I've got a, I tell people all the time, I'm going to die of one of two ways: running into a burning building to save a litter of kittens, or someone's going to walk up behind me one night and cut my tongue out. But either way, I'm expecting it.
I think it'll be the kittens. I'd like it to be the kittens.
I'd rather it be the kittens too, but you know, but hey, can you imagine if they cut my tongue out? All those words, no, all the words and everything that I have done, all the art that I've put out for the missing and murdered Indigenous women, every speak that was recorded, every interview that was done will all come out at once. And my demise will stand for something. Not just for me, but for those who bit their tongue instead of allowing it to be cut off.
I mean, I know that issue with the newspaper article coming out was horrible for you.
It was
And
ugly for me.
it was, and it just, it's funny, Ali and Daniela are in another class where we talk about how people narrate their human rights abuse stories. And once it's out in the public sphere, you've lost control of it, right?
Yeah.
And that so clearly happened in the case of that article. And I remember, you know, Becky went to legal to see if there was any hope, and their answer was, you spoke in a public forum, you know, and it's terrifying.
But the thing is everybody signed confidentiality agreements in there, but they didn't make the media do so. So even though everyone in the room had signed the confidentiality agreements and they weren't saying anything, because they didn't have media sign it, that's how it got out.
Shit, well, that's on me then. I never thought of that. Yeah.
Media has to sign it too.
But then why would they even come? They wouldn't even come.
For an interview though.
Yeah, you know, I think the journalists
ask your questions based upon it, and either I will answer it or I won't answer it. Don't print every last little detail, because it was almost word for word of my talk that they printed on the front page of the newspaper.
That's true. That wasn't a public forum. We had the doors guarded. I just think the journalist didn't operate with a different set of ethics than she should have been.
Yeah.
I think she probably felt like she was doing her due diligence because she felt it was a public place. And it was terrible.
Yeah.
But
now she's on my friends list.
Really?
She follows me constantly. And she's actually been to some of my talks as a human being, not as a reporter.
Good.
And I've actually sat back and watched her sign the confidentiality agreements.
Well, I'm glad that she sort of maybe learned from the whole thing.
She almost lost her job.
Well, that's good to hear, I think.
Yeah. And I had to go back and fight for her job.
Really? I didn't know that.
That she knew, you know, it wasn't her fault.
Well, it wasn't.
You know, that she did print the truth at an event where a confidentiality agreement was signed, and it was that she did not receive one.
Yeah.
There was no record of her receiving one. So she still had her job.
Yeah.
But the shit she had to take from my aunties and my uncles and everyone calling her, threatening to sue her and press charges of slander on her and everything like that. And once that word got around, all my cousins started calling her and telling her it was the truth and leaving their names and actually extending past my father's name to all the other family members in the community that were guilty of the exact same thing, that had raped them or exploited them.
Right.
So it just set up them. It was just basically they put their foot in their mouth.
Yeah.
You know, and then when they went to get support, the other foot was jammed in their mouth. So
yeah. Well, I see we have reached the hour mark, and I've taken enough of your time.
Okay.
Do you guys have any last comments? Or, I mean, Ali and Daniela and Talon, you've been avidly watching. I can see your expressions.
Yes.
Leona, can I call you later today? Are you free?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, why don't we, I'll do
call after 7
7 p.m.?
if you can.
Sure, yeah, that sounds good. I'll, yeah, your cell hasn't changed, hey?
No, everything's
Okay, yeah, I'll give you a call tonight and we can debrief.
Yeah, we're good.
You're good? Well, we can just chat.
Yeah, it might hit me in an hour, but you know,
Okay, but you're
it
good?
was nice meeting you and thank you. I'm sorry to have upset you, Talon. I can see that that was a lot.
It's I don't know, everything is usually sugar-coated, so I really liked it though.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it was a lot, and I tend to bring a lot. You guys are lucky. You guys did not receive what Rosemary received the first time I met her.
Yeah, I asked Leona to bring it down a notch because doing it online is so hard.
Right.
But the three of us, we will discuss afterwards.
Right. Okay, great. Well, thank you, ladies.
Thanks. And, have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Whew. I did ask her to tone it down. That was toned down, actually.
I like her.
Yeah, she's great. She's actually very funny, and I'm really honored to say that she's become my friend. Do you guys want to take a 5-minute break, or I guess 10 minutes, and then we'll come back? Okay, so see you at 1/4 after. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything specifically you want to follow up on from what Leona talked about. Any questions or stuff from the report where her story and that of Jenny, Deb, and Michelle are. If you have any questions around that, I wrote that report with help from the other people in NORAD, and all of the women read it and commented on drafts and stuff. So I didn't actually write the report. I was the lead author, I guess you'd say.
I think like just with her talk, there's a lot of great ideas. But I think one thing that really she said that stuck was that a lot of the people don't have the like degrees, and they don't have the master's, and they don't have their PhD. So that's what makes it really hard to like kind of move forward with it, because in this day and age, that's what the government wants. Like they want people in these positions to have that kind of education. Yeah. And if they don't have that education, then that can be really damaging in like progressing forward with this.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Like, you know, the peer support worker, you know, sometimes they're asked to do this voluntarily. And these are not people with a lot of economic means all the time. Yeah, and so that whole expert, you know, I remember from our community workshops that some service providers positioned themselves as experts over and above what experiential people were saying, you know. So there's a real problem in the system for that, right? She said she has a PhD in, what was it, street smarts or
When I like, it was so hard not to laugh. Like I tried not to laugh, but sometimes she just said things that were like when she did that street.
She wanted you to laugh. She would have been fine if you laughed.
But I really liked her, and I really liked her talk, and I found that she was very like informative, but also like very engaging. It wasn't like I was sitting here bored.
Yeah.
Like I was actually very interested in what she was saying, and she was speaking from like personal experience and work that she's done, and not just kind of like research and like reading off of a screen, if that makes sense. I wouldn't say I agree with everything that she says, but I don't want to like discredit her. Like kind
Yeah.
of um like what you said about the criminalizing family members or people that are involved. Like I think that there are a lot of situations kind of like what you had mentioned, like if the wife is also getting abused, like I feel like there would be a lot of implications with that. And if you make it situational, it could be easier to discriminate against like people of color or people of lower class.
Yeah, I that's what I worry. Which
Um,
made an interesting point that we're all indigenous,
mhm.
which is an argument that's been made before. I mean,
Well, and I think too, like something that I thought about when she was talking about that, especially like say in indigenous communities, if there's already like generational trauma and these things are already working, like it's trickled down, if there is like a woman that's being abused by her husband, I don't think that the threat of her being like prosecuted is not going to be enough for her to come forward, you know?
yeah,
Like
I
there's
get.
already so much like if like there is like generational trauma in that situation, added abuse isn't going to, and just the threat that maybe you could get prosecuted is might not be enough for her to come forward and report her own abuse and report the abuse of the child.
Like maybe if there, I mean, and she sort of said that the woman would come forward for help. Maybe if there was a carrot to accompany that stick. I don't know, but yeah, and it's interesting because she did reconcile with her own mother. I don't remember the details of whether her mother said she didn't know. I think her mother did. I don't remember, you know, but and she did reconcile with her father too, actually. So yeah, it's interesting, right? But she's been like 35 years on a healing journey where she gets to a space where she can save, like be able to forgive her father, who's now dead, actually. Yeah, so I mean, the support, I don't know if her mother was abused. She said she wasn't abused as by her own father, right? Because she was the youngest. Whether or not her spouse was abusing her, I don't know. But yeah, it does make you wonder. I think, I mean, I don't, you know, they talk about the sort of generational trauma, and part of it is the normalization of abuse, right? And that was so clear in Leona's story, that it's just completely normalized and people are shielding, right?
I wonder like what the she kind of referenced this, like I wonder what the role of like pop culture is, like with the whole Miley Cyrus thing, or
Yeah.
like she referenced like things in SpongeBob, or like even for example like in the Looney Tunes, that skunk just got like taken out of I forget the skunk's name.
Pepe Le Pew?
Pew just got removed because he was kind of like he reflected like rape culture.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, I wonder what the role that pop culture plays, if that really plays a huge role. Like I know that that contributes to rape culture. But I like the whole Miley Cyrus example, like in particular, I was kind of like, I don't know. I just don't know. Like I don't know.
I think she's on to something. I mean, God, the other day I drove past 7-Eleven in between the two high schools, and all the kids were out in full force because it was lunchtime. The Chippewa and the Catholic one. And this girl was there. It was like 10 degrees. It was a nice day. She had a midriff cut shirt on, and then her thong pulled up over her hips, and then her track pants down. I thought, wow, that's like so 2000. I thought the T-bar thing was over, and she looked so cold. But I mentioned mentioned this to my family, and my son goes, "Oh, she's in my class." I'm like, "Oh, are you able to pay attention in class?" He's like, "Yes." But I don't know, it's just like, why is she dressing like that? And you're not supposed to blame the victim. I know that. But why is she dressing like that?
And I think that that's the role that like pop culture and like social media especially plays today, because that is like that is coming back.
The T-bar thing?
I will never be caught dead wearing that.
Why?
But it's coming back because all these young TikTokers and all these like social media influencers are wearing that, and it's just like starting to make a comeback. Like it's totally different from like if like a 2000s, like a designer bag from the 2000s was coming back. Like this is a fashion trend that is, and they sell it as like empowering your body and like that kind of way, but I'll never be caught dead in it.
Like, I mean, it's just interesting to see this 15-year-old girl dressing because she's told that it means she's confident in her sexuality. Well, I mean, I don't know her, but I would just guess that it is exactly the opposite. She is not confident in her sexuality. Therefore, she feels the need to dress. I don't know. I mean, I've always been very goody two-shoes, and so I don't know. But I do think, and what did Miley Cyrus invent? The front thong? Was that what they called it? I think. Yeah, she invented the front thong. You don't remember? It's really awful. Like, well, it just like there's a very clear camel toe, and it's just like, and like she's up. Yeah.
From the Line's performance.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, sure, you can be empowered in your sexuality, but I don't know. I think it does sexualize girls, like women and girls. I think, I don't know. I mean, you can't blame media for everything. Just like, are we going to blame Halo for violence? I don't know. But there's got to be connections.
One thing she said too, like when I asked a question about like decriminalization, how that would like impact human trafficking, and she said that it would just drive it further underground. That made, because the readings that we've done in the past, like last week when there was that reading about like from the government, and like some of the other readings in the past, it's been iffy, like it's been up in the air that maybe it'll like put an end to it, maybe it'll drive it further underground. Like, what is there any clear kind of like answer? Like, I know what is it, New Zealand that's like
Ashley's actually doing her paper on this, so hopefully she comes next week and she can fill us in a bit. Yeah, because I was saying to her, I don't think there's a lot of like, intuitively it makes sense to me that decrim would decrease trafficking because people are less underground. Right now they're operating underground. So she's going to do a search of like New Zealand and New South Wales, and is it Nevada? No, Amsterdam, anyhow, to see if there are links between decrim and up or down of human trafficking. But yeah, I would have liked to ask Leona a bit more on that, how she thought it would drive it underground. But it's interesting because she did okay. I mean, she did tell me before she wasn't super on board with decriminalization, but she was also okay with our report recommending decriminalization. So I'd be interested, I might ask her about that tonight a bit. Like, I know she's worked with Sex Trade 101 in the past, maybe she still does, which is that one Bridget Perrier's organization. Remember I shared you her Facebook post? And so that's people who identify as survivors of the sex trade, whether trafficked or self-exploited, and they're definitely not in favor of decriminalization. So it's a good, Taylin, did you have any thoughts or questions?
I thought it was really like insightful of everything goes on. Because like obviously I know about human trafficking and all that, but it's just crazy to think of like, I don't know, how like she was so young and everything like that's just insane.
Yeah. And her story is actually sort of kidnapped and tied to a bed story. The one that I've sort of repeatedly said, it doesn't happen that often, but hers is. I mean, she'd been a street kid. She'd been living on the streets and got tricked into going into a hotel room. And I'll just leave the rest out. It's pretty horrific. And it's interesting to think that she can't access the free supports, right? And I know that Michelle, the other woman in our study, who also has been out of it for a long time, like as a long-term survivor, has made the same comment. So, you know, if you're struggling with addiction or flashbacks, or, you know, in the case of losing her daughter, you know, what kinds of supports are out there, you know, and there's not a lot. Counseling is not cheap. I don't know what it would be, but I'm paying $120 an hour for physiotherapy. So counseling must be somewhere around that, hey?
I think it depends like who you
go to.
And there's I think social workers are a bit cheaper, but they're still like $180 an hour.
Yeah.
And psychologists can be like $250.
Wow.
So if you don't have like benefits and stuff or anything like that, that's really, and you know, if you have to go every couple, you know, it's not just a one and done thing.
Yeah. Like I know through my employee assistance program, we get coverage for, I think it's like 6 to 8 sessions, which my friend has said like she could take care of an easy trauma in 6 to 8 meetings. But if you're dealing with something that's so compounded with intergenerational and then childhood, like that's not 6 to 8 sessions, even if, you know, someone like Leona had an employee assistance plan, which she doesn't, obviously, as a, you know, self-employed artist. Yeah. I mean, I guess you can access counseling through your doctor's office, but I think it has to be pretty dire, doesn't it? I don't know. Anyhow, yeah, it's the lack of supports and the focus on the human trafficking, right? Like that there is more money poured into human trafficking, and then people are finding they have to say. So that story of the 15-year-old was interesting, right? Because I was wondering, why wouldn't she say she was being trafficked? She didn't want her dad to know. And I think the same as Michelle's daughter, Cheyenne, you know, denied what was going on. She probably didn't want her mom to know, right? Even though her mom had told her that about her own experiences. Yeah.
So if so much, it just seems like unbelievable to me that, you know, we've talked about in other sections before how like so much money can go into human trafficking initiatives or anti-trafficking initiatives. But then even the example of like the 2-year kind of window that you have, it's like, if all of this money is going into it, why is it so restrictive of who can access the services, when, and how you qualify for the services? It just like blows my mind.
Yeah. And I'm not quite sure which services she meant. I think for sure she probably meant the Victim Quick Response Program. Maybe she also meant like other services, like there's NGOs out there delivering programming. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it does make you wonder, right? Because we've read how there's not enough convictions, that it's harming people who, you know, it's catching people in the net. The supports, even when she calls the police at Thunder Bay and an ambulance and they don't go. And Tracy has told me the same thing in Sudbury, situations where someone is definitely being exploited or abused and the authorities aren't helping. And then it is the family member or the community members going and pulling the person out of that situation. So it does make you wonder, like, where is all this money going? What's it accomplishing?
Why do you think that, like, the ambulances and the police don't go?
Maybe, I have no idea. I mean, maybe they were just like, who is this woman calling? I don't know. It could have been as simple as that. I really don't know. I mean, I do know that Thunder Bay police services are known to be really racist. Like, there's a lot of challenges, right? And there were all those kids in Thunder Bay dying by suicide a lot of the time, who'd come down from further north to go to high school and university. Like, I don't think Thunder Bay is a good place to be Indigenous, is my sense, just based on what I've sort of picked up here and there. So maybe it's that. I really don't know.
Yeah, my grandparents are from there, and like whenever I go visit, like the news station's always crazy with everything going on.
Oh, really?
And you just hear a lot about the Indigenous people.
I haven't been there like since I was a kid. Is it pretty rough?
Like some areas are that I've heard of, and like I know the LCBO near my grandparents' house, a lot of it's locked up apparently because of the Indigenous people.
Or that's what they said. That's
Yeah.
your grandparents' perception,
No, like
I guess.
like I don't know like who says that, but like I've heard,
Yeah.
which they're not even that close to like the reserve where they live, so like I don't really know. And
But there's a lot of urban.
like, there's always a lot of Indigenous people that are found dead and stuff. Like how
Yeah.
There's a podcast that Sal told me to listen to in first year, and it's like titled Thunder Bay.
Oh.
And it's a 6-part series. I think it's like 6 parts.
Okay.
And it breaks down like these different instances, like with like there was like corruption in the police, like, and how that impacted like the Indigenous community there, about like schools, and like there was like river deaths that are like deemed suicide, but maybe not
questionable. Okay.
And but I guess a lot of it's like in the downtown core, because that's where all the like low income housing is.
Right.
And when the Indigenous students off the, like from like Six Nations and all these northern reserves come there, they are always like placed down there. So the downtown, like I know that's where I'm looking to go do my post grad. So I've started to like look into it quite a bit of like what areas to kind of avoid.
Right.
But everything that I've read and everybody I've talked to, they just said like the downtown, that's where they stick them, because so that they could keep them all like in a central.
Oh,
I know,
so
and that's crazy to think of.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And like what Talon said, there's a liquor store right beside one of like the rivers, and they've like at one point they like stopped like servicing Indigenous people because those people would end up in the river.
Oh, that's so sad.
And like when they like look back at like the talk screen and they look at that kind of stuff, like there was so much like alcohol, drugs, and just in that core area, like if you go past Lakehead, like on the outskirts, like there's no, like it's a nice area to be in, but that downtown core is just like so rough. And that's where that, I can't remember her name now, the trailer hitch.
Oh, yes.
That was downtown, like on that main drag there.
Right. Yeah. Eunice, I think. I can't remember her name. So it's quite a racialized socioeconomic gap, and spatialized, I guess, from the sounds of it.
I think they had to bring like the RCMP in too at one point, because like the Thunder Bay Police, there was so much going on that they had to bring the RCMP in to kind of clean it up a little bit.
I mean, that downtown core, it sounds like a place ripe for trafficking. You've got all these kids far away from home, lonely, isolated, experiencing racism. Like, it just sounds like a recruiting site. Although I think Leona said this girl was brought up from Six Nations, which is near Brantford. That's a long way to get from Brantford to Thunder Bay. Like that's a really freaking long drive. Because we're 18 hours from Thunder Bay, is that right? How often do you drive there, Taylin?
I used to go like every once a summer usually, and it's like
Yeah.
a drive from Elliott Lake to there. So
Oh, you're from Elliott Lake, so it's a little bit shorter.
yeah, then yeah.
Okay.
think
I
it's
was
like
actually born in Terrace Bay. You must drive through that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really nice drive. There's lots of
Is it? I haven't done that drive in
Mm.
decade, like years. Yeah. But I mean, it's interesting that Leona's saying it could happen to anyone, it can happen anywhere. And interesting, when I asked her what she would have for us, I think she was really tailoring it to you young women, right? The height of your prime right now. So that was interesting. Stuff you already knew about protecting your drink, I'm sure. Do you remember when that bar on campus used to be open? There were rumors that are you what was that drug called? Are you for no, that's the morning after pill. Anyhow, the date rape drug had been circulating. What's that?
Like girls were getting roofied?
Yeah, that's the word. I don't know. Yeah.
There was a guy, like I'm a bartender at the boat, and there was a guy 3 summers ago that I watched him
No.
right at the bar. The girl's drink was right still on the bar, and he came up behind her.
Holy shit.
And I called like Steven immediately, and I was like, get him out of here. And I grabbed the drink back. But like people, they're not even
wow.
like
That's
stealthy,
scary.
I guess, about it. Like they're just, and there was
Wow.
another guy that he's like in jail right now because he was like successful with it at a couple different bars in town.
Holy shit.
And like sexually assaulted, I think it was like upwards of 12 women.
Oh my God. That's scary. Yeah. Yeah. So I think, I don't know if there's anything more we want to go through. Yeah, it's quite interesting to hear her perspective because it is very different from, say, Tracy's from Swans. And I mean, I'm sure we could talk to another survivor of trafficking and hear a totally new set of views, right? And so that, I find that hard then, if all these people have different opinions, how do you honor all of their voices? You know, that's always a tricky challenge, I find, doing this work.
Oh, right. I kind of wanted to ask your perspective on when she said something like it's not about your gender, or it doesn't have to do with your gender or your race, or I just wanted to hear your kind of perspective.
Well, I think she's just trying to make the point that anybody can be a trafficker and anyone can be trafficked.
Okay.
I mean, statistically, we don't keep ethno-racial statistics. We keep age statistics. So we know that people who are trafficked do tend to be between, like in the younger age brackets. And we know it's overwhelmingly girls and women, right? But yeah, so, I mean, I do think that I'm pretty sure that Indigenous women and girls are overrepresented in those trafficking stats. And the other thing we know is that about 1/3 of Canadian police reported cases are cross-border trafficking, and then 2/3 are domestic. So the cross-border may or may not involve women of color. Okay, we just don't keep that kind of data. But I think her point was simply that it could happen to anyone. And I guess it could, right? Like you do see survivors talking, saying, I came from a nice middle-class family. But I do think that there are structural factors which set some people up as more vulnerable. It makes me think about, was it last week? We read about the shift from the the article on the consultations, how there's been a shift from the structural vulnerabilities to the emotional and psychological vulnerabilities. And so I think in terms of those emotional, psychological vulnerabilities, we can make the case much more strongly that anyone is potentially vulnerable, right? But the structural vulnerabilities. So it would be interesting to sort of see the balance between those things. But when you look at indicators lists, they often talk about low self-esteem, sense of isolation, lack of friends, family problems, just feeling alone, wanting a boyfriend. I think Deb in our interviews talked about that, that if you haven't had a boyfriend and you just want to feel like you belong, and then this Romeo comes along and sweeps you off your feet, but I don't know what the relationship would be between structural vulnerabilities and emotional. Would you guys think there would be some connection? I don't know. I really don't know.
I feel like there could be, but I don't think it's like dependent on.
Yeah. So like interpersonal factors and then structural factors. Yeah. Leona's also talked before about religion playing a role, that maybe if you grew up in a strict religious household, you want to rebel and then get swept into the lifestyle that way. I mean, there's lots of different paths, The other thing I kind of had thought she was going to say, because she said it before, is like, pay attention to homeless people. If someone's struggling, help them, she said in other situations, which is kind of what I'd been asking for, but she interpreted my question a different way. So yeah, there's lots of different paths for involvement, I guess. Yeah. So next week, I'll find something about male and trans trafficking, sex work, whatever I can find. I'll make it short and digestible because it's that time of year. And you guys have a few more weeks to work on your essays, right? I can't remember when they're due. Let me just pull it up. Are they due at the end of the month?
They're due on the 18th of April.
Oh, you have tons of time. Why did I give you so much time? I guess because I'm nice? No, it probably was strategic. I'm probably lining up my marking. So yeah, if you have any questions about my feedback on proposals or steps forward. So I think only Megan wants to present on that last week of class. Do any of you want to present? No, you're good with just a written paper. And I forget the page length I said. Did I say 15 to 20 pages?
12 to 15.
12 to 15. Oh, okay. If you want to go longer, you can, for sure. But you don't have to. Yeah. So any other parting thoughts? You're all like going to be okay with some of the tough stuff we heard. I mean, it might stick with you during the day. Like it's natural to be upset, and maybe just go outside and enjoy the nice weather and go for a walk or something. That's my self-care speech. Don't use drugs or alcohol to cope with your feelings. Like my chiropractor had a sign on her wall, like, it's okay to feel upset during these COVID times. Don't use drugs or alcohol. I called her out on it. I'm like, are you serious? She's like, I know, I'm the kettle calling the pot black. I'm like, okay, sorry, I'm rambling. I'm going to stop the recording now.